Live from the City of Angels, Sunday morning, midnight movie money is in effect. And the number one film this weekend is Weapons, bigger than expected at $42.5 million. You see the headline here from THR. This is obviously above forecasts. I think the high end of this was really in the upper 30 millions, and now we're at 42.5. When you throw in the international, $70 million on the global debut. And one thing I want to point to here is go back to Barbarian, right? This is Zach Cregger's first film with 20th Century, not Warner Brothers that time around. Remember, the worldwide on that was $45 million. So we basically matched the worldwide Barbarian cash in domestic debut money alone on Weapons. It is big, okay? Here it is directly from the Warner Brothers email. You see it there at $70 million, 42.5 domestic, 27.5 international, gives us 70. Weapons, the seventh number one opening of the year for Warner's, as well as the sixth movie in a row with a debut above 40 million, something no studio has ever done. Remember that Warner Brothers was in trouble earlier this year. Before you had Minecraft and Sinners and all that, there was talk about changing out the studio heads. Let's get new voices in there, new minds. And now that's not the case. It is all turned around for them. As you know, Superman, we'll talk about that in a minute. Also, they had a part in F1, even though that's Apple's film. Hugely successful. So Warner Brothers is flying high here on this Sunday morning. Thanks for being here. Midnight Movie Money live here on X, YouTube, and Twitch. Let's go into this a little bit deeper, and you can see that we have this domestic debut of 42.5 million. So this points to audiences that really like the film. Obviously, you guys know I'm not as high on it as a lot of you are. A- cinema score is very strong for horror. The film is interesting. It never is not that, which I have to give it credit for that. Do I think it pulls it all together? No, but you seem to like it. And ultimately, we're going to say, let's go. Let's have some applause for success at the multiplex because, listen, guys, we're into a really slow zone incoming here over the next couple months. It's going to be pretty rough for theaters. So for Weapons to be doing this at 42.5, and let's say this. Let's say this does a Sinners and ends up doing really great holds over the next several weekends because everyone seems to be talking about this movie. Now, listen, it's at 42.5 stateside. This isn't $100+ million opening, but it does feel like there's a lot of buzz. And when you have a debut of 42.5, that tells you that there's a lot of people who have not seen the movie. And I think there's one thing that Zach's been able to do with both of his films, and the marketing here was very strong from Warner's as well, the mystery aspect. What exactly happened to the kids? What is this film and this twist that I'm hearing about? All of that feeds into the buzz that you're getting here on Weapons and this $70 million global debut. While we're here on Weapons, let's go down and talk about Superman because it is not in the top 5, but I figure since we're on the email, let's just knock it out right now. Superman at $578.8 million. People asking, where's this going to go? I said it's going to get to 600 by hook or by crook, okay? Warner Brothers will put it to 600. It'll happen. But remember, when we have box office frauds like your boy Luis Fernando telling you this is going to make 650 when it was very clear it was not going to come close to that, you're barely going to get to 600 million because we're not even at 580. And this thing's slowing down. Look, the global weekend was 13.6. So let's say we have another minus 45, minus 50 next weekend. you're looking at about, let's call it 7 million. That'll get us with the weekday totals to, let's say, 590. So next weekend's going to be close. Maybe it gets to 600 next weekend, but it's not getting much above that. And when you throw in the inflation calculator, this is much less cash than Man of Steel did at 600 plus million back in 2013, right? Hey, objectively, that's true. Whether you want to hear that or not the case. I don't care. We're talking about facts here. So don't come in here and try to spin stuff. We don't do that, okay? Listen, I just told you I don't love weapons. I think it's fine. Didn't hate it. Gave it a 6.5, which is a D for me. I wish it were a lot stronger, but objectively, box office-wise, it's a hit. So, see, that's how you do it. You don't carry in biases and agendas when you do this. We're still talking Warner Brothers. Let's just stay here because F1's right there. Not in the top 5, but you can see it here at 570.7 million. This is right behind Superman, right? I mean, 8 million, a little less than. That's pretty good. I said, what did I say way back when, everybody? I want a round of applause for Weber. Right now, everybody out of your seats. Let's do it here on this Sunday morning. And let's say the man is good. I told you that F1 could beat Superman in the worldwide cash. And we are less than 8 million apart. Yes, indeed, aren't we? Wow. Look at the international cash. 392.1 million. As I said last week, and you look at it right here, if you add the international cash of F1 to Superman's domestic cash, which is at 331, then you're talking about nearly 700 or more than 700 million. But because F1's doing better internationally, Superman doing better domestically, you end up with the numbers that are very close. Like I predicted. Luis, the box office fraud can't do that, can he? Hell no. Let's go to Freakier Friday because we're finally up to our number 2 film, and then we're going to do Fantastic Four and the rest of the top 5, but we knock Superman F1 out with weapons. Let's talk about Freakier Friday, and you're talking about a $29 million domestic debut. I can tell you right now, no matter what Disney wants to spin here this morning, this is not really what they wanted. They wanted something bigger than $29 million, and when you throw in the overseas cash, you're looking at a total of 44.5 million because only 15.5 on the international money. That is not as high as Disney wanted. They really thought that this could pop to possibly a $35-40 million domestic debut, then even get higher on the international. Good news is there's really not a lot going on for the rest of the summer. I mean, summer's essentially over, right? Once we get into early August, we transition to preseason football, then to movie theaters becoming an afterthought. So we are in the final stages of any kind of importance when it comes to the multiplex, but Freakier Friday can extend the wick and just let it roll just a little bit into the last dying days of summer. That's the hope here. But the $29 million debut does not impress me much, like Shania Twain sang about way back in, what year was that? 2000 what? Help me out, everybody. Let's look at Fantastic Four because it's down another 60% this weekend. Yikes. The global total now, 434.2 million. Okay. This doesn't get to 5. Probably not. So this is not what Disney wanted either here. They thought they could get this above 5. They thought we'd get better holds than this minus 66 last weekend, right? Minus 60 this weekend. But you look at this and you say, we need a break, right? MCU needs to take a timeout. We need a siesta. We need a vacation from the MCU so that people can get excited again about going to see another Marvel movie. And the next one is Doomsday, and that's not for a while. And I think that's beneficial. That's what you want. You need to have space, right, to regenerate interest. The refractory period for the MCU has been way too short lately, and that is why we are seeing this kind of result with Fantastic Four, which is the best Marvel film of the year without question. Better than Thundercocks. Yep, I'll call it what I want. And better than Captain America: Brave New World. So it just unfortunately isn't going to get as high as Disney would have liked. Bad Guys 2, down 53%. Not really a stellar hold for this film. And we talked about it last week when you look at those initial numbers. I think Universal wants to see Bad Guys 2 turn into some kind of franchise. At this point, it's time to let it go. You got 2 films out of it. If you're lucky, this thing breaks even. Bad Guys 2 is not going to be an amusement park memorabilia item for you. No one's going to buy stuffies of the Bad Guys 2 at Universal. It's just done. So it's not like the worst thing ever, and I don't give them a lot of grief for trying to make this happen, but it's not happening, right? The Mean Girls. It's just not happening. So when you look at Naked Gun, that was down 50%, 8.4 million. It's a low budget when you consider a comedy here. I just would have liked to see this film go higher than it is. But, you know, listen, we've talked about this repeatedly on the Sunday Night Spectacular coming up tonight. Our big topic, the directorial glaze. I'll let you guys try to guess what that's going to be about tonight. But you look at the theater going is not as big as it was in the past. It's very clear in these numbers. Even if we look at weapons, and I'll pull it up right here, you guys can see it. You can see that the per location average on this was 13,000. Now, I'm not saying that's bad. It's great for a movie like Weapons. I believe the total was 38 million. That included, we're talking about Zach Krager getting paid to direct, executive produce, and write. And then the total budget, I believe they're in for like 38, and this thing's already at 70. We're looking at a 2.5 multiple to be profitable. So this will already, you can see it's going to be profitable because we're already pretty much at a 2x nearly. So this will easily get to 2.5 in the multiple from this point forward as it's in theaters. But when you look at the per theater average, 13,000 is good. Don't get me wrong. But, you know, a great PTA is 20,000, 30,000 when you start talking about these huge films. But it's August. It's almost over, guys. We're not going to have much to talk about coming up very shortly. It's going to be the dregs until we get to Wicked, Zootopia 2, Five Nights at Freddy's, Avatar, even though, dudes, Avatar, why? Why are you excited about that? Seriously. Why would you give a shit about watching another fucking Avatar? This time we're going to do fire instead of water. Story's going to be the exact same. Here comes the bad army marine guy, and he's going to try to take him out. Shit. It's just so dumb. You just turn your brain off. They should have a little area, you know, like sometimes you go to movies here in the press and they say, we need to take your phone, and they lock it up. They should have an area where they capture brains and place them in tanks. And you go in to watch Avatar, and you come back out and reinsert your gray matter after sitting through Avatar. But it's cinematic, Weber. What are you talking about? Don't you want to watch the same movie over and over? Even though it looks like Viewmaster 3D, it's cool. If you say so. Not for me, though, buddy. Okay. Let's continue. Freakier Friday's number 2. Only 7,300 per location. That is not fantastic for a film that opened on nearly 4,000 screens. I mean, I guess when we talk about Freakier Friday, as I mentioned, that debut of 29 million, I don't care what Disney wants to spin it as. It's not great. Okay? So, listen, who really wanted another one? And Lindsay Lohan, she hasn't been a thing in forever. She looks great. Can I just say that? Lindsay Lohan looks amazing. Although, Scott Menzel and I had a beer the other night, and I guessed her age. I said Lindsay Lohan was 42. She's 38 or 39. So she looks a little bit older than her age. This is what you get with your box office breakdown here. Who else is doing this way? No one else is. AI can't even do this. I don't know what I'm going to do when I step on this thing. Fantastic Four First Steps number 3. As I mentioned, it's not going to get, it's going to barely get to 500 million worldwide if it does. 400 plus million right now. Bad Guys 2, number 4. Naked Gun is 5. Superman 6, we talked about that already. Jurassic World Rebirth did not mention the fact that it is now going to hit 800 million tomorrow. It's like 799.98 million. But technically, it's not 800 million, right? I know we usually round, but in this case, it has to hit 800. It's got to tip it over. The scale has to flip to 800. It's not till tomorrow. But 800 million, but. Remember that Dominion made over $1 billion. So we're minus 200 million on Jurassic Park. This is what I'm talking about when I mention these diminishing returns, an audience that is not as heavily in attendance as it has been in the past. This is all fact. If you guys don't like the facts I spew, then go watch someone else like Stuckman if you want to go to bed. He will literally put you to sleep. If you want to go watch that and literally just snooze, turn into coma, feel free to go watch Chris Stuckman. I can't wait to see Shelby Oaks, one of the worst titled films in the history of cinema. Like, it sounds like a subdivision in my hometown of Columbus, Ohio. Where did you grow up? Shelby Oaks. I'm sorry, what? What was that? That's the name of a movie? You're going to name them? Forget it. F1, number 8, number 9's Together, down 62%. Big fall for Together. Doesn't help Weapons comes in as another horror film. And as we talk about horror real quick, we'll talk about this tonight. The number 1 horror film of the year from a critical aspect is Bring Her Back. It is way better than Weapons, guys. Don't even play games with me. Don't do it. Don't do it. Okay? If you think otherwise, it's fine. The door's over there. Leave. We don't need you. Because if you think Weapons is better than Bring Her Back and you're like a real horror fan, you're falling into some hype. That's what we're talking about tonight. The directorial glaze. That's what we're talking about. Hype. Unearned hype. Listen, Zach Krager's making money. Obviously. Duh. His films clearly get people talking. But as an overall creative enterprise, dudes, I'm telling you, man, it's not a great film. Weapons is, if anyone says a great film, I notice a lot of people saying, well, it has a lot of stuff. Well, that doesn't make it good. I could write a film about a bunch of different shit and shove it into something and go, wow, that's amazing. No, it's just a bunch of stuff. Even, did you see that Zach Krager, and we'll talk about this tonight, this was great. Those of you saw Weapons, right? There's a scene where there's a giant AK-47 / AR-15, probably an AR-15 on 8. It's not a Russian film. But the AR-15's above the house with like the time in the middle of it, the 217. And I remember, we talked about this on Thursday. Scott and I were like, what the hell is that doing in the film? And Krager's like, I don't even know. I told you guys, we are good. I don't know why you even bother watching someone else. The gold fucking standard, man. It's not even not a contest. Not a contest. Sketch is number 10. I saw Sketch. We'll talk about that film. That's pretty much a horror film. By the way, not good on the debut. 1,100 per. That's like empty. That's literally showing your movie to nobody. Angel Studios. That, I'm telling you, man, Sketch is almost more of a horror movie than Weapons. It's like way too intense for kids. All right, couple of comments and we're out of here on this Sunday. Thanks for being here on Midnight Movie Money. The creepiest thing about Weapons is that it's a school shooting metaphor. Well, exactly. But the problem is that it doesn't fully expose that. You can talk about all the metaphors you want, but unless you fully expose, the film's way better if you got to rewrite it. Well, I talked about it. You got to rewrite the entire film. You totally do. You have to take the idea and just rewrite it. And the druggie's got to go. Okay? The clerk's druggie has to be eliminated from the film. I mean, guys, I can't do this. I'm not going to do this shit anymore. Where we play this game of Weapons is a great film and you just missed. Dude, it's not a great film. There's no universe in which Weapons is great. You guys are fucking crazy. to even say that. I mean that as kindly as possible. This is not a great movie. It's not even close. Okay, Bring Her Back is so much stronger as a horror film. Thank you, Gone Girl, with the comment here. Yes, I saw Strange Harvest. We'll talk about Strange Harvest, Sketch, 2 horror films, and then we'll also talk about the directorial glaze, which is something else. You guys, can you figure that out? I bet you can. Wait till you see the thumbnail. You'll know exactly what the directorial glaze is all about, and we'll be dragging our boy Fantasy tonight. That's coming up on the Sunday Night Spectacular. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Peace out. I'll see you back here tonight for the SN